do you do? And thank you for checking out the new Sportsline Podcast on CHCH. I'm Bubba O'Neil. Folks, as we tell you all the time, Southern Ontario is a hotbed for successful teams, athletes, executives, and in today's case, broadcasters. And we love to uncover their personal stories. Today, we've got a real good one for you that's become the dean of the Hamilton sports scene. Having the ability to multitask is a must if you want to work in today's media business. Now, if you're up at the crack of dawn, Rick Zamperin has got you covered on 900 CHML's Good Morning Hamilton. You know, from his radio beginnings in what I believe is small-town Alberta to his days as the voice of the Hamilton Tiger Cats to his current role as Assistant Program News and Sports Director. What a ride the guy is on. Rick, great to have you on the Sportsline Podcast.
Bubba, it is an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to be here. Thanks.
What do you think about the new place?
Love it. Absolutely electric atmosphere. There's some great people who work here, as you know. It is a breath of fresh air. Congratulations.
Hey, thank you very much, and it's great to have you. You know, I'll tell you, so we talked about your beginnings there. Brampton guy ends up at Fanshawe College. Yeah. How'd you end up in Hamilton? Give me that journey.
So my formative years were in Brampton. I was born in Toronto, grew up in Malton, the home of Paul Coffey, and then went to high school in Brampton and had a lot of fun there, and went to Fanshawe College because as a 8-year-old kid, I would watch Hockey Night in Canada and fell in love with the Maple Leafs and, Bob Cole calling the games. And I thought, man, I want to do that. That sounds like a lot of fun. And so I did some research, found that Fanshawe was not too far away from the GTA, understood it was a fantastic program. And so away I went and spent 2 amazing years at Fanshawe, learning everything under the sun from cutting audio to asking the right questions to learning about journalistic integrity, and had a lot of fun along the way. Mm-hmm.
And then from school
to Hamilton. So that's a bit of a winding road. So after school, and this is, Fanshawe's in London, Ontario, I thought I need a job in the industry. So the first foot in the door job was in Chatham, Ontario, which is further away from where I grew up, but it was getting into the business, did some weekend news anchoring, some weekday reporting at like Chatham City Council or Wallaceburg Town Hall. It was not very glorious at all, no. But it was a lot of fun because you cut your teeth on, all these things that you learned about in school, and now you got to apply it in real life. From Chatham, and it was just a part-time job. I thought, now I need a full-time job. So scouring the nation, this is in the mid-90s. We're in recession mode, and there's not a lot out there. And so along comes an opportunity in Fort McMurray, Alberta, which is 500 kilometers north of Edmonton. I still remember the bus ride with my then-girlfriend, now wife, who, and I'm not sure why she ended up marrying me after that trip, but listen, 500 kilometers between Edmonton and Fort McMurray. Most of the forest was scorched by a forest fire the previous summer, and I remember taking a nap on the bus, waking up and thinking, I'm in the apocalypse. But ended up in Fort McMurray 2 years, 10 months later. It was a phenomenal experience because it was in the middle of nowhere, and the winters were harsh, but you got to learn about everything, about covering council, again, editing, cutting your teeth on being a great news anchor, covering every sort of story in the community, working an audio board, hosting a show. You name it, they needed it to have happen. I was really happy to contribute. From Fort to Welland, Ontario.
You're getting closer.
I had the hankering to come back home. All the family was in Ontario, so we kind of bit the bullet, came back to Welland. It was a short stint in Welland, went to Chatham, and then since 2000 have been at 900 CHML here in Hamilton.
And you've done an amazing job. Your path has been unbelievable. And the fact that all those skills that you learned, I see that you've been doing over the years as well. The time now is 2007, I believe, and Tim McAuliffe is leaving his role as the Tiger Cats play-by-play guy, which I think he only did for a year or 2 years.
3 years.
It was 3 years?
3 years, yeah.
Okay, so 3 years, not a real long time. And I remember getting a phone call from someone in the Tiger Cats organization saying there's going to be a job available, a play-by-play job. And like yourself, I wanted to do play-by-play and something I envisioned myself doing. Yep. I was already in sports. I had done, I think, 4 years. And people forget this, that the Tiger Cats, not every game was on television back in those TSN and CBC days. Yeah. There was generally about 3 games and always a preseason game at Iverwin Stadium in which Kojiko covered, and I was the play-by-play guy. So it just seemed natural to me that I would apply for this job. Well, I guess there appeared to be what I believe 2 rounds, and I know I cleared the first round. And then I got a phone call saying, Bubba, you didn't get the job.
Oh, no.
So then I said, look, okay, I know you don't normally do this, but who got the job? Rick Zamperin got the job.
Sorry, Bubba.
Tell me about those days. And you did it for...
Well, I did it from 2007 to 2014.
Right.
So 8 seasons, 7 years, however it computes. I'm bad at math, obviously. It was fun. It was, and I remember my first broadcast, and this was, as an 8-year-old wanting to do play-by-play. I thought it would be in the hockey world, but it turns out to be in football, and it was more than I could ever have dreamed of, because you're at the stadium, you're telling the story of what's happening on the field, all the raw emotion and the things that people don't see and in a radio world can see. So you're really painting a picture as to what is happening, not only on the field and where the ball is going, but what's happening on the sideline. Is there an injury? Why are the refs meeting, or whatever the case is? And that first broadcast, it was at Canadian Stadium, old Canadian Stadium in Winnipeg. I remember walking up the stairs, and there was like 17,000 stairs. Coach Sal and I, John Salavanis, walking up the stairs, lugging all this equipment. And it was pain-free, because once the broadcast started, it was, wow, I finally have made it. From an 8-year-old guy to finally, realizing the stream. So let's face it, the Ticats had some horrible teams during my tenure, at least at the start of it, the Charlie Taff era, back-to-back 3-15 campaigns. But I became a fan of this team long before that. It was 2003, the bankrupt year, in which they went 1-17, and players were waiting for paychecks, and the league was running things. And I just looked at this team and thought, here's guys who are just coming to work every day, not knowing if they're going to get paid, and continue to slug it out, and they're not winning. And all of a sudden, they beat Saskatchewan in overtime on a crazy game, and through all of that, finally, this team picked up its mojo and started, with Bob Obilovich coming in, and, the rest is kind of history in terms of the success they've now had over the last, number of years. But, and I remember the Grey Cup in 2013 in Regina, Mosaic Stadium, old Mosaic Stadium, and Coach Sal and I calling it from the end zone. We have no depth perception.
No, it's
looking
hard.
at the monitor thinking, how are we going to do this? But we got through it, and it was such a fun time.
And let's be honest, for those that don't know, and I know there's probably people that know him from your broadcast days, a little bit after that, and then of course right now on the Ticats audio network. Coach Sal, what a treat.
He is a living legend. The amount of football knowledge I consumed from him, I've probably forgot more than I have, retained, but he's such a solid individual, a class act, always gives you the time of day, and taught me so much about the game.
Agreed.
And a lot of it was just through osmosis and during the broadcast, and him just pointing out little things that I would have never even thought about looking at. I carry his saying with me that about football, your offense is only as good as your offensive line. And it's so true. If you don't have a good offensive line, you can't move the ball. And man, he knows so much about football. It's just, and he's such a great guy. He's done well in this community. I mean, a guy who's gone to the Grey Cup, won the Grey Cup, and has been an outstanding coach and now an outstanding broadcaster.
Yeah, he's unbelievable, and a treat for me to work with still to this day. You had the pleasure, as I did there for a little short time, of calling games at the old barn. Something special. I mean, I always say to people that I miss it, and I do miss it.
Yeah.
But it was time. It needed to be changed over. I mean, Iverwood Stadium had been around there for almost 100 years and needed change. But there was something, Labor Day games, there was just something about that crowd and calling games there. What a pleasure.
It had a mystique, and not to say that Tim Hortons Field doesn't, because there's a certain level of mystique there, but Iverwood Stadium with their cold visiting room showers, their cramped quarters, the increased capacity that it had, especially on Labor Day when we saw a full house, just the whole vibe around the stadium. I called it the Fenway Park of the CFL because it was, the oldest stadium and was a little rough around the edges, but we loved it because we were right on top of the action. The press box was nothing to write home about. It was, kept together by some toothpicks and matchsticks and just held together by duct tape, but it was a great place to watch a game. You were so close to the action. The seating maybe wasn't as comfortable as, the new amenities at the new, donut box, but boy, it was awesome. And, the ghosts of Tim Hortons Field and formerly Iverwood Stadium. I mean, you could just kind of feel that at the venue, and you still kind of can at the new one, but Ivor Wynne holds a special place in my heart, and I think the hearts of many Ticats fans.
There's no doubt about that. And these Ticat fans, and this is why, I mean, it is really hard to believe in a 9-team league that the Tiger Cats have not been able to lift that Grey Cup and the fans to enjoy it since 1999. Yeah. It is such a passionate fan base. And still to this day, you get to interact with that passionate fan base, win or lose, on the fifth quarter.
Yes.
Can you take me through what 1 hour of talking to a Tiger Cat fan base is like after a win or loss?
Well, it's there's two very different things. After a win, it's a very calm and serene 1 hour show. And it's always looking ahead to the next game and some minor tweaks that can happen with this team. After a loss, Bubba, it's very different because people want to fire everyone or change the quarterback or they should run a bunch of screenplays. But that speaks to the fandom and the passionate, vibe that's in this community when it comes to Ticats football. They're so invested in this team that with every transaction, that with every tackle, that with every touchdown, they want to see this team do well. So after each and every game on 900 CHML, we fire up the phone lines and hear from fans on the fifth quarter, and it's such a treat. It's the easiest show that I'm ever going to host because I do minimal talking other than introducing the show, offering my thoughts, and then the phone lines light up, and it's awesome.
I mean, being part of the Ticats audio network and knowing that I'm throwing to you basically, I mean, from the end of our broadcast to the beginning of yours, like it is, for me, it is race to the automobile. So I can hear exactly, I mean, I know what I think about the game. And of course, guys like Fan Twos and Tucker and RJ Broadhead, we've already talked ourselves out about the game, but to hear the fans and then to hear you just kick back, and boy, the passion is unbelievable. But at the end of the day, though, they, no matter what, and I know you know this, they still love their Ticats.
Absolutely, yes. Even after a loss, when they're irate and they want to see changes, they want to see this team do well. And for me, and I say this is the easiest show because this is a show about the fans, and this is their opportunity to vent or praise or do whatever they want to do. And fans, from time to time, they do a phenomenal job. There are some that make some unique suggestions when it comes to changes or whatever the case is, but that's just them being a fan. And sometimes they think a little too far outside the box, but still, you can't knock them for doing so because they love the team.
After the playoff loss to Montreal, you were on the call with someone that was clearly a fan for maybe generations after generations, and I heard them say that Bob Young should be fired.
We've gotten a few of those. Yeah.
How do you fire the owner?
Listen, if it wasn't for Bob, this team would be in potentially a very different place in terms of stadium, in terms of the
might not be a
in
team.
General. Yeah, there might be somewhere else.
Right.
So we got to give Mr. Young a lot of credit because he dipped into his pockets, he made a commitment, and he's held that commitment true. Now, it hasn't been rewarded with a trophy at the end of the season, but in a 9-team league, it's going to happen soon. And I know this is the 25th anniversary of the 1999 championship winning team, so maybe this is the year. Maybe it's not, but we can hold out hope.
You love to interact and show your appreciation, and not only for the Tiger Cats. I know there was a video that we just read, and we maybe run it again. Just it's real something I actually look forward to.
Yes,
that to see you celebrate, you walking into work and doing your thing, singing your song. What's this all about?
So this is, sometimes the best ideas just kind of come to you. And after one particular Leafs game, this was a Leafs playoff loss, I thought, you know what, I have to express my emotion in a different way. And that way was to basically launch the, blank fans going into work today. And as you can tell by some of the reactions, it's either irate or sad or very happy. And so I'm glad that people have kind of caught on to it. It is a lot of fun to do. And sometimes, and these are spontaneous. This isn't me just planning. It's, me kind of driving into work thinking, what am I going to do today? How am I going to react to what happened the day before or the weekend before? And it's been a lot of fun.
It is fun to watch. I really do look forward to seeing it. Hey, you've been around again long enough to see what's going on with our Hamilton sports teams, and As we had Mike Morreale on yesterday, we were talking about the loss of the Honey Badgers and, and the fact that, the Bulldogs are in Brantford now. And is our future good here for sports? What are your thoughts?
I'd like to say yeah, and I think I'm correct in saying so because, I don't see the Ticats going anywhere. They're a brand that has been here for, 150 plus years. The Bulldogs is an interesting scenario because they and owner Michael Andlauer has a big decision to make. When that lease is up in a couple of years after this season, do they stay in Brantford? And Brantford is really committed to building a new arena there, a complex or, entertainment center, as they like to call it. But that's a big decision because it seems like Brantford has been very hassle-free for what now is the owner of the Ottawa Senators, too. So if he can have one less headache and stay in Brantford, that might be a win-win. But in saying that, there's a new arena that's coming to downtown Hamilton. And what is that going to look like? And how is Mr. Andlauer going to feel about that? And, by that time, it could be hey, let's make this move because this is the right thing for the franchise. That's going to be interesting. Apart from that, the other franchises and teams in this community are well entrenched. I know the Badgers have gone, but, McMaster Marauders, whether it's football or basketball or volleyball, they've done some amazing things over the years. The Rock and what they brought to Hamilton has been astounding. It has really surprised me that that fan base has come down the highway and continues to support the team, and a lot of new fans are going to those games.
Well, I think lacrosse is big in this area.
Massive,
it always has been. I mean, my days in Junior A dealing with that as a PR guy with the Bengals, the old Bengals. Like it just they're flocking to this. The only thing is, I'm getting Jamie Dawick on this. Okay, this Toronto Rock, it's a Hamilton Rock.
Yeah, I say we just call it Hamilton Rock. Let's do it. I think the time is right. I think enough time I think has passed for fans to realize that I'm driving to Hamilton to watch this Rock franchise. Let's call a spade and go Hamilton Rock.
The team that I think is the most interesting to watch right now, in fact, it's the league. It's actually in its own way become kind of cool. The IBL. The Cardinals got something. They got something going. I mean, they've been around for
eons.
Close to 75 years, I think.
Yeah.
And they've had some name changes. I think the Thunderbirds at one time, back to the Cardinals. And then you've got Welland down the road, the Jackfish.
Love that name.
And they've got this social media thing there. They're going back and forth. Brantford, kind of not very good, But they're all having fun. And attendance at these games increase.
It's phenomenal. There's nothing like in the middle of summer spending your hard-earned money watching these guys who are not making a gazillion dollars at the ballpark, chomping on some peanuts or Cracker Jacks or whatever they're serving that day, hot dogs, whatever your fare is, and just watching these guys go at it. It's so fun because these guys are in it for the love of the game, and they're not going to take a day off, and very rarely do they do that. And the competition, I know there are some really good teams and some really bad teams, but at the end of the day, it's baseball. And if you love baseball, the Hamilton Cardinals, Bernie Arbor Memorial Stadium is a great place to catch a ball game.
We have a great sort of discussion here that Scott Radley, one of your cohorts, also a writer at the Hamilton Spectator, brought up. And it's got something to do with that.
Do we have to talk about these things?
I mean, it's right on your profile.
It is.
Beloved Leaf fan, I think you call yourself. There's the Leafs, and then there's these guys.
Yeah.
We've already seen the Raptors. What's going on here? Right? Who's going to win a championship first?
Yeah, so let me throw this back at you because I know you're also a Buffalo Bills fan. So and I know you're not a Leafs fan, but you're also a Buffalo Sabres fan.
Yes.
And when is it going to happen, right? We have the skate in the crease, we have two wide rights.
Robbed.
13 seconds. There are so many, just names of horrific sporting events tied to your teams in particular. But yes, these guys from 1967 until now have not won more than 2 playoff series. Can you believe that? They have never been to a Stanley Cup final, yet goofs like me continue to cheer them on because I'm a sucker for punishment.
How? How is it possible? Think about the teams that have been, I'm not saying won a Stanley Cup. They've at least been to a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Almost every franchise, except some of the new ones, has been there at least once. And they have not been there.
It's mind-boggling. I mean, it's kind of the same as the Ticats not winning since '99 in the 9-team league. But in the same, the Leafs have had some pretty good teams. The Pat Quinn era, that was phenomenal hockey teams. Now they've had, a really good stretch of making the playoffs, but just can't get over that hump. I don't know. If I had a magic coin to clear whatever is, whether it's the Ballard curse or whatever the case is, I would do it in a heartbeat. But for whatever reason, like they just, the construction of this year's team is a little lacking in terms of the defensive capabilities, and goaltending is a huge question mark. But besides that, for 50 plus years now, they have fallen short time and time again.
But why do you keep following them?
It is the hope, and it is the dream, and it is the one day, Bubba, it's going to happen. And it would be the worst thing in the world to jump off the bandwagon, and then the next year or 2 or 5 years down the road, they end up doing. I think whenever it happens, and knock on wood, it's sometime soon, that the journey will be so worth it. And I'm sure as a Bills fan, if they ever got to the pinnacle and ended up actually winning the thing instead of losing 4 times in a row.
We've smelt it.
It would be amazing. So, and I know the Raptors had their moment in 2019. It was a glorious, amazing parade.
Well done.
And if they ever did it again, it would be phenomenal too, although, they're in rebuild mode. But if the Leafs did it, or the Bills did it, or the Ticats did it, the celebration would be that much more exciting. Just like when the Red Sox finally broke the Babe Ruth curse.
Yes.
The Cubs finally broke the GOAT curse. Like, it was phenomenal.
You mentioned the Bills, and it would be remiss, this is my time for a little domination.
Oh, okay.
One of our little fast facts said something about you having a man crush on number 13 of the Miami Dolphins, Dan Marino. And it was my guy, number 12, that kept blocking him from getting to that Super Bowl. Yeah. Okay, so there's the situation. Dolphins win a Super Bowl or Leafs win a Stanley Cup.
Wow. Yikes. As long as Pat Mahomes is in the AFC, that's going to be hard for the Dolphins or every other team. I would have to say, I'm going to make a fool of myself and say the Maple Leafs.
Oh, no!
I think it's really, in the NFL, it's really hard because you play once a week. You're playing 17 games now, and come the playoffs, it's one and done. Whereas the Leafs have the luxury, if you can call it that, of, yes, it's an 82-game grind, but in the playoffs, you have a best of 7. So I think the opportunity to advance is a little bit higher because in football, you can have a bad day, and your day is done. Or you can have a good day, and still the luck's just not on your side. So I think it's much difficult to win a Super Bowl when you're a team that doesn't have the elite talent. I don't think the Dolphins are there. The Leafs have a lot of that elite talent. I mean, they have 4, maybe 5 guys you can put in that. Here's 5 guys who could probably lead them to the promised land. But, winning the Stanley Cup's hard too. Like 4 rounds, you got to win 4 out of 7 each time. Maybe they just won't ever win again. How about that?
Well, I'm not going to say that's going to happen, but boy, I mean, you just based on their past history, it just seems to be failure after failure, and then they give you a little sniff, and it's like, Austin Matthews may score 70 goals this year, which is, hasn't been done in multiple decades, and that's tremendous. And you feel like a team that had a guy like Austin Matthews that will challenge a Connor McDavid, a Kucherov, McKinnon for the MVP, that they should be, at least a top 5 team, but they're not. They're hanging on to a playoff spot.
Well, I will say this. As a Leafs fan, it is, and I discussed this with some of my coworkers who are Leafs fans too, we have been, I think, spoiled of late with the likes of Austin Matthews, who we haven't seen, with this franchise probably since Wendell Clark or Rick Vaive, or maybe Doug Gilmour to a different, extent. But having a superstar who wins MVP awards, which we haven't done in decades, we're enjoying the moment because we know that it is so hard to win a cup, and we're really not expecting any trophies at the end of the year. It's prepare for the worst or expect the best, prepare for the worst. And that's where we are at right now with this franchise. But they are fun to watch, right? Like they can put the puck in the net. They don't defend very well, but that adds to a lot of intrigue, especially come, the last 5 minutes when they're trailing by 2 and manage to tie the game or try to win in overtime.
You and I share a secret love, and it's almost like a secret passion that, not everyone has been a part of. And it's actually gotten a little bigger over the last couple of years due to a show on Netflix. You and I have exchanged social media blurbs at 8 in the morning, which is always fun because it's Sunday and it's F1 Sunday. Big news today.
Huge.
Big news today.
Well, as a Ferrari fan, Bubba, as you know, I'm quite shocked but happy in the same light. Although wishing this would have happened 10 years ago.
Yes.
Lewis Hamilton, the reports are that he's moving to Ferrari and going to take the seat of Carlos Sainz Jr., who's a pretty good driver, but he's not Lewis Hamilton. He's not a 7-time champion. Shocking, obviously, to Mercedes. I saw their post on X, which was just a surprise kind of emoji, and they didn't see that coming. So This is earth-shattering for a guy of his ilk to say, all right, I'm going to go to the marquee, team in F1, the team that has, over the decades has been, that pinnacle of, the Montreal Canadiens of Formula One. But wow, this is very intriguing.
It reminds me of the 96, 97 era when Michael Schumacher would come off 2 F1 World Championships with Benetton. Couldn't have been more successful.
Yeah.
And he made a move to Ferrari, who were in the pits at the time. They were not putting together good cars. I think Jean Lacey was there. They didn't have great drivers. They didn't have a great car. At least it wasn't reliable. And he said something about, you cannot be where I am at this level, at this sport, and not drive the red car. Mm-hmm. There's just a mystique about it.
There's an allure to it, and a lot of people have said that, whether they've come at the end of their career like Lewis is going to do, or like in Michael's case, he went there pretty early on in his career, and the rest is kind of history in terms of what he was able to achieve. But for Lewis, this is a guy who I think just wanted to get a taste of what it was like to be in that seat with that red around him, and kind of experience that, to go out and ride into the horizon in that flashy red car. How successful he's going to be is the intriguing part of it, because it's a team that has some success.
They can win races.
Yeah, but not to the level, obviously, of Red Bull. Red Bull's light years ahead of everyone.
For sure.
Mercedes is there. We've seen McLaren come on over the last little while. Ferrari's right there as well. So is he a guy who can take that team to the next level and get multiple podiums? I'm really eager to see how he does in that car.
Maybe he pushes Charles Leclerc a little bit too. I feel like he needs to be pushed a little bit. And for Lewis, I could think, maybe in his, I won in a Mercedes at Silverstone, but to win in a Ferrari at Monza, I don't know if there's anything better.
Yeah, I mean, with the Tifosi all around, the Italian Ferrari fans.
That podium that they have?
Absolutely.
Oh.
It's spine-tingling, especially when you're on that team and you're hearing the Italian national anthem and, everyone is popping the champagne corks. It's pretty fun, but can he win? And he's going to be, 2 years older, because it's going to be this season, and then, in 2025 he jumps into the seat. I think he's going to push Charles Leclerc, and he's a guy who I agree needs a good kick in the rear end, because is he too lax? Can he reach that next level? And I think Lewis is a guy that can probably take him there.
For sure. One last thing here. Obviously, you've got the morning show at CHML. Mm-hmm. You've done all the shifts in your career.
Yes, literally all of them, yeah.
When do you wake up in the morning?
I'm up at 3.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm in the building at 4 and on the air at 5:30. And listen, it's a lot of fun, because, and I've said this in the news business for years, every day is different, right? You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, we have a set list of guests that are come on, but if something breaks, we're breaking in and we're asking, a guest, hey, can we get you on the next day? Because this is, late breaking, we want to jump on it. And, just talking to people in Hamilton, what's happening in our community? What is people's biggest concerns when it comes to, their day-to-day lives? And, the odd time we have some fun, and the odd time we have to get a little bit serious, because there are some big topics we got to talk about.
Well, Rick, you're doing an outstanding job. And Thanks. From an outsider here who still listens to the radio and thinks that radio is important. You, as I said, we've had some deans, and I realize your station as well too, and this station as well too, of news people that they have just etched themselves into this community, and you're no different right now. It's your turn. Thanks. and it's really fun to enjoy your talents as well too. And I wish you didn't get that job from me. But, that's the way.
Look at you now, though, Bubba. Look at you now. Hosting a podcast.
Hey, life works out in the way it's supposed to go, right? But anyway, thank you for joining us on the Sportsline Podcast. Hope you can come back again and share some stories. We can talk about maybe Lewis again winning that race.
I'd love to come back
at Imola or Monza, for that matter. Hey, folks, we love talking sports from a local, provincial, and national perspective. If you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote, the Sportsline Podcast wants you. You can contact us on many of the CHCH social media platforms, and we'll get you on the couch. We'll promote whatever you want. And while you're at it, please comment, hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe button, because we certainly do appreciate your feedback. For the wonderful minds and hands that make this podcast possible, thank you for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow.